Hi, I'm David Ware with the State Archives, and I'm here today with Julienne Crawford, curator of the Arkansas State Archives, and we're going to talk a little bit about Thanksgiving in World War I times. Julienne, what do you have for us today?
Well, I have several things here. I have two menus here from Camp Pike from Thanksgiving in 1918. And then I have an enlargement here so you can see a little bit more of what the actual troops were eating, which they got to eat a little bit better than the people on the home front. In the homes, they had to conserve a little bit more. But they had turkey and dressing and all the typical things, and things that were common during that time period, like oyster soup, and then things that were a little bit harder to come by, asparagus, pickled salad. Then they had many turkeys. In 1917, they actually had over 30,000 pounds of turkey.
Good
just
Lord.
at Camp Pike.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Camp Pike is actually where Camp Robinson is in North Little Rock.
That's right.
You could see the aftermath of the 1918 dinner here at Camp Pike.
Mm-hmm.
Here we have an original photo and an enlargement so you can see it a little bit better. After the soldiers had gotten done eating all the empty dishes.
And it looks very festively decorated with pine boughs and looks like garlands of grapes or some sort of vine there and so forth.
Yes.
It was a special event.
It was a very special event. In 1918, the war had just ended, and there was a lot to be thankful for.
Mm-hmm.
Many of the troops were still, though, in Europe and didn't come back until 1919.
Yeah.
But in the U.S. and other parts, we were conserving wheat and meat for those troops and
Right.
also for the Europeans whose fields were burned.
Yes, exactly. And the thing is that 1918, Americans had gotten used to economizing for the war effort. So a blowout like that would have been pretty special for civilians, much less for the military. Since the middle of 1917, Americans had been encouraged to economize, to save all sorts of foodstuffs for the use of the troops and also to feed the armies of the Allies overseas, whose farmlands were ravaged and whose farmers were in the army over there. The man in charge of this effort was none other than the great humanitarian and former mining engineer Herbert Hoover. In the summer of 1917, President Wilson put him in charge of what was known as the United States Food Administration. And he was given broad powers to encourage economizing to get these vital foodstuffs to our troops. And so, 1917, 1918, more than half of the households in America took the pledge to have wheatless Wednesdays and have meatless Fridays, to basically free up more food for the boys overseas. And the Food Administration encouraged all sorts of experimentation of ways to find substitutes, especially for wheat, because white wheat flour was the foundation of bread, which was the foundation of the Army ration. And so you have the U.S. Food Administration encouraging home economics programs, the Department of Agriculture, to develop all sorts of wheatless recipes. And here we have a manual for wheatless recipes. What would you use to substitute for wheat? Potato flour, rye flour, rice flour, barley flour. Also, they encourage the use of graham flour, which is a whole wheat flour. That is, you're not losing the bran and the germs, so you're getting more mileage out of every kernel of wheat. And also high in fiber, and you can make fine baked goods with it. And so here we have some of the recipes reproduced from this manual for wheatless cooking. You also found them in newspapers across the country. Here you have from the Monticellonean of Monticello, Arkansas, Thanksgiving 1917. You have what the American Thanksgiving Day means to suffering Europe here. Then you have the kitchen cabinet. We've got for the wheatless days. There are many ways of serving the ordinary cornmeal mush, but few realize the variations which may be carried out with it. I know that's sending you to the kitchen cupboard for some cornmeal right now. Happily enough, Julienne has given us some examples of things that are perhaps a little more appetizing than cornmeal mush recipes. Julienne, what do you have there?
Well, I have two different things here. I have some orange cookies, which is kind of like an oatmeal cookie, but instead of adding wheat, it's using rice flour and oat.
Mm-hmm.
And it has some orange zest into it, and nuts and raisins. Raisins were used a lot during that time as dried fruit was
Dried
very
fruit,
popular.
yes.
Then this other item here is just a nut bread, and that uses oat flour and cornmeal.
Yeah.
So no wheat.
Mhm.
And then raisins and nuts again
Yeah.
in it. But these were two recipes that were from the Manual of Wheatless Recipes from 1918. And there's all sorts of different things in here. You can see here some donuts, wheatless donuts, and potato donuts.
All right, spud nuts.
Yes, we love our spud nuts.
Yes, but probably not made to that recipe nowadays.
Probably not. I think they may include some wheat. But sometimes the recipes did include wheat. It would just be a reduced amount of wheat by substituting in potatoes, either mashed or floured potato. By other types of grains. Barley was very popular. But they're kind of fun to go back to look at because you can find some recipes now that are gluten-free.
Exactly. For those of us who have people in the family with celiac or other gluten intolerance problems, runs in my family, we got used to rice, flour, cookies, and so forth early on, and there they have their genesis in World War I. Thank you, Herbert Hoover.
And looking, this is from Chronicling America. We have over 200,000 pages of Arkansas newspapers on the Library of Congress's website. And so you can search for recipes there. We have many that were during World War I of their newspapers. And so you can search for eggless recipes, meatless recipes, wheatless recipes.
Exactly. And if you do that, you'll find something interesting. Going between the various newspapers, you find the same stories. Like this one, this block of text, 3 stories right here. It appears in a number of Arkansas papers all about the same time. These were nationally syndicated, and I'm sure encouraged by the U.S. Food Administration to get the word out to people.
Yes, they were. You find them in many different publications. And the same with this kitchen cabinet, too, that they would just have the whole block sent to the newspaper so that they could do it as one segment. But then sometimes you had local recipes, too, that were submitted.
Yeah. So at any rate, Chronicling America, the great resource to which we are contributing, as well as state archives and libraries around the nation. It's there for people to explore, accessible through our website, of course, through the State Archives website, our digital collections page. And we invite people to take a visit there, if you can't visit us down here, and encourage you to try some of these wheatless recipes for Thanksgiving. Or wait a minute, we have another holiday coming up. Didn't I see somebody in a red suit earlier today?
Yes, Christmas is just right around the corner.
Oh, well, let's content ourselves with one holiday for right now. For the Arkansas State Archives, I'm David Ware and
Julienne Crawford.
wishing you a happy Thanksgiving.